Shalom Aleichem and welcome to chapter 15. Today we'll be looking at Hebrew modes. Let's get started. Now you may be wondering, what is a mode? What is a mode? What does mode mean? In Hebrew grammar, a mode expresses the speaker's attitude towards an action. Not when it happens, because that is the tense, but how it's intended to happen. Mode shows whether the action is a desire, a command, or a wish. So when you talk about mode, you're talking about whether the action is a desire, a command, or a wish. And if you've done Greek, then you know that you've looked at mode in Greek, because Greek also has mode. In the Greek, you looked at the indicative mode, the subjunctive mode, the imperative mode. Those are modes, and they show the speaker's attitude towards the action, just like in Hebrew. But in the Hebrew, we have three modes. We have the cohortative mode, the imperative mode, and the jussive mode. I want to repeat, there are three modes in Hebrew. We have the cohortative mode, the imperative mode, and the jussive mode. The cohortative mode is used to show a will or desire, and it's always used in the first person. For example, saying, I will listen, or we will listen. I and we, those are first person. So cohortative mode is used in the first person, and it shows a will or desire. And then we have imperative mode. This one you may already know. Imperative mode is used to show a direct command. When you're giving a command, you're going to use the imperative mode. For example, you listen, you go, you walk. Those are imperatives. They're used to show a direct command. And the imperative mode, most importantly, is used in the second person. And that is why when you're giving a command, you say you do this, you do that. You're used in the second person. So imperative mode is used in the second person to give a direct command. And then thirdly, we have the jussive mode. And the jussive mode is used to show a strong wish or a mild command. Jussive mode is used when you're showing a strong wish. For example, may he listen, may she listen, may they listen. That's in the jussive. And most importantly, the jussive uses third person. Third person are words like he, she, they, those are third person. So the jussive is using the third person. And just to repeat the most important thing, cohortative shows a will or desire, and cohortative uses first person. Imperative shows a direct command, and that uses second person. The jussive shows a strong wish, and that uses a third person. So that is the most important thing when it comes to Hebrew modes. There are three. You have cohortative, imperative, and jussive. Now you may be wondering, how are these modes built? Where are they coming from? And the answer is this. All the three modes that we've looked at, the cohortative, the jussive, the imperative, are coming from the imperfect tense. All of them build their forms or their paradigms from the imperfect tense. All they do is just make minor changes to their forms, but they're coming from the imperfect tense. And so here's where they're coming from. Remember, there are three. We have cohortative, that uses first person. We have imperative, that uses second person. And we have jussive, that uses third person. And remember, the imperfect also has first person, second person, and third person. So the first person for the imperfect tense is going to be used to build the cohortative mode. And the second person for the imperfect tense is going to be used to build the imperative mode. And the third person for the imperfect tense is going to be used to build the jussive mode. So what I'm saying is this. The cohortative is coming from the first person of the imperfect tense, and the imperative is coming from the second person of the imperfect tense, and the jussive is coming from the third person of the imperfect tense. That's where they're coming from. What they're going to do when they build their forms, as we're going to see, is to make some minor changes, but the similarities are still there. So let's look at each one of them in details. The first one is the cohortative mode. Remember I said cohortative expresses the speaker's own desire or will or determination. And this is used only in the first person. The cohortative only uses the first person. And since it's used in the first person, when you're translating it, you're going to use I or we. For example, you're going to say, I will make a covenant. Let me make a covenant. So when you're translating it, you're going to use first person pronouns. I, we, us, those are first person. You're going to use those to translate cohortative mode. So what's important here is to know that the cohortative mode shows a will or desire or determination. And the cohortative mode uses first person. So you're going to see when you translate it, you're going to say, may I, let us, or let me. You always use the first person pronouns. And that is very important. All right, let's see how it's built. Let's see how the quotative mood is built. So the quotative mood is from the 1CS and 1CP of the imperfect tense. The quotative mood is built from the first person common singular and first person common plural of the imperfect tense. And if you know the imperfect tense, the moods are going to be very easy because the three moods are going to use the imperfect tense. So here's how it's built. Remember, the quotative mood has first person singular and first person plural. It only uses the first person, and in the first person you have first person singular and first person plural. So in the first person singular, here's how it's built. These are the key features. So in 1CS, you're going to have a, prefix a, and suffix a. You're going to have a prefix and suffix a. Now remember, it's built from the imperfect. The a already, the prefix a is already coming from the imperfect tense. You saw that in the imperfect tense in the 1CS, in first common singular, you had a prefix. Take note of this. The only thing that the quotative is going to add is the a suffix. In the imperfect tense, you don't have the a. The only key identity, the most important key identity in the quotative is the a suffix. That is going to tell you that the word you're looking at is a quotative. It's going to start with the form of the imperfect, but the ending is going to have a. That is going to tell you that the word you're looking at is a quotative. So in 1CS, you're going to have a prefix with a suffix. And in 1CP, you're going to have ni prefix and a suffix. Again, you're going to have the identity, which is a. The ni is already coming from 1CP. In the imperfect tense, when you check the first common plural, you're going to see the ni prefix. So this is already coming from the imperfect tense. I want to emphasize, the only addition or the only key identity of the quotative is the a suffix. That is the most important key identity. The a and the ni are coming from the imperfect tense. And that is why we say that the three moods are built from the imperfect tense. They only do minor changes. For example, the quotative is going to add a suffix in 1CS and 1CP. I want to repeat, in the first person common singular, you're going to see a and a. The boxes are representing root letters. So here in between, you're going to have root letters, and these are going to be verbal root letters. But at the beginning, you're going to see a prefix, and at the end, you see a suffix. And in the first common plural, at the beginning, you're going to see ni prefix, and at the end, you're going to see a suffix. This is how the quotative is built. And that is very important to know. So 1CS, first common singular, is going to be translated as I or me. When you're translating it, you're going to use I or me. I will make a covenant. Let me make a covenant. And 1CP, first common plural, you're going to use we or us when you're translating. We will make a covenant. Let us make a covenant. And that's how you translate it too. All right, let's look at examples of the quotative mode. Here are some examples on translation. The first one you have Weshmera Toratka. Weshmera Toratka. Weshmera Toratka. How do you translate that? First of all, here you have Weshmera. Our focus is on Weshmera. And as you can see, Weshmera is having the wa conjunction, and that means and. And then you have this form, Eshmera, Eshmera. As you can see, it looks like an imperfect, but it's not an imperfect. You have the a prefix and a suffix. And this is showing you that this is a quotative, but quotative in the first common singular, 1CS. But then to translate it, you need to look at the root letters. As you can see, the root letters, this word is coming from Shama. Eshmera is coming from Shama. You have Shin, Mem, Resh. Those are root letters for the word Shama. And Shama means he kept. The verb Shama means he kept. So now that is quotative. The translation is going to be, let me keep. Let me keep. When you're translating quotative, you always use let me because you're showing desire. Remember, quotative shows desire or will or determination. Something that the speaker wants to do. So you're going to say, let me keep, let me walk. So here, since we're talking about Shama, and Shama means he kept, The translation of this cohortative is going to be, let me keep, let me keep. We are saying me because it's singular, so it's going to be let me keep. So Weishmera is, and let me keep. Toratcha. Toratcha means your law. We have looked at pronominal suffix on nouns. You have the cha, that's a pronominal suffix on the noun Torah. Torah means law. Toratcha means your law. So translation is going to be, and let me keep your law. And let me keep your law. That's how you translate this one. Next we have this phrase, Nikreta berit ani wa ata. Nikreta berit ani wa ata. How do you translate this? Our focus is on this form here, Nikreta. Nikreta. Now when you look at Nikreta, it has ni prefix and a suffix. So this is telling you that this is cohortative. And since it's having ni prefix, it's 1CP, first common plural. But then to translate it, you're going to look at the root. It's having karat, kaf resh tau, that's karat, and karat means he cut, and that refers to cutting or making a covenant. So karat means he cut. So as 1CP cohortative, first common plural cohortative, the translation is going to be, let us cut a covenant, or let us make a covenant. Let us make a covenant. Remember, the key in translating a cohortative is going to be let us if it's plural, let me if it's singular. So in this case, ni prefix is plural. So you're going to say, let us make a covenant. So Nikreta means let us make. What are you making? Berit. Berit is covenant. So let us make a covenant. Nikreta berit, let us make a covenant. Ani wa ata. Ani means I. And then you have wa ata. Ata means you. Wa means and. So you have I and you. So together translation is going to be, let us make a covenant, I and you. I and you. Next we have this phrase, Yachdao lamishpat nikrava. Yachdao lamishpat nikrava. Our focus is on nikrava. It's having ni prefix and a suffix. So this is a cohortative. But then to translate it, you're going to look at the root. It's having karav. It's having karav. This root is coming from the verb karav. And karav means he came near. So since it's ni prefix, it means it's 1CP, first common plural. So translation as a cohortative is going to be, let us come near. Let us come near. But together you have Yachdao lamishpat. And these are words that we've looked at. Yachdao means together. Yachdao means together. Lamishpat, you have the preposition le that has swallowed up a definite article. So it's pointed as la. So le means to. And then you have definite article. So you have to there. To the mishpat. Mishpat means judgment. So together you have, let us come near together to the judgment. Let us come near together to the judgment. That's how to translate this one. Lastly, you have this phrase, Ve'ekreta lachem berit olam. Ve'ekreta lachem berit olam. How to translate this? Our focus is on the first one, Ve'ekreta. The first one is vowel conjunction, that's and, but then the word is ekreta. Ekreta is having a prefix and a suffix. This is pointing to 1CS cohortative, first common singular cohortative. But then to translate, you're going to look at the root. This is having karat. Karat means he cut or he made. Karat means he cut or he made. So as a cohortative here, it's going to be, Ve'ekreta is going to be, and I will make, and I will make, and I will make. So the translation is going to be, and I will make. Lachem berit. Lachem, you have le preposition that is having pronominal suffix. We've looked at this already. Lachem means with you. Lachem means with you. And then you have berit. Berit means a covenant. Olam means eternal. Olam means eternal or everlasting. So together you're going to have, and I will make an everlasting covenant with you. Lachem. Lachem, with you. And I'll make an everlasting covenant with you. That's how you're going to translate these examples. Let's move on. We come to the imperative mode. Now, the imperative mode expresses a command. It gives a command or an instruction. Something you tell somebody to do. Something that you tell someone to do. It's only used in the second person. Remember, imperative is used in the second person. You're telling somebody, you do this. You do that. You go, you walk. So it's used always in the second person. So when you're translating it, you always use second person. You singular or you plural. And again, it's built on the imperfect tense, but then coming from the second person. So it's built from the second person imperfect tense. But what is important when it's building its form is that it's built without the preformatives. It does not add the prefix, the imperfect prefix. Alright, let's look at how this is built. Remember, the imperative mode is built from the imperfect tense, and on the screen you have imperfect tense on the left and you have imperative form on the right. So how is it built? Remember I said it's built from the imperfect tense but not having the preformatives. It's not having the prefixes. So it's exactly like the imperfect tense except it removes the prefix t. So you're seeing t is here. If for example you have tiktor, tiktor, when it forms the imperative it's going to be ketor. The t goes out and becomes ketor. Next you have tikteli, tikteli, goes imperative, it becomes kiteli, kiteli. The t has disappeared. And maybe wondering, why is it kiteli? Why is it hirek and not shua? Because here on kaf you have shua. Where has the shua gone to? Notice if you remove the t prefix, you're going to have two shuas starting a word, and two shuas, the rules of shuas, two shuas cannot begin a syllable or a word. And so the first one is going to go into hirek. And so you have kiteli, kiteli. And the other one you have tiktelu, tiktelu, goes in imperative becomes kitelu, kitelu. And the last one you have tiktona, tiktona. And the imperative it becomes ketona, ketona. So what is happening? The imperative only removes the t prefix to form its forms. And that's why I say the imperative is formed from the imperfect tense. It's exactly like the imperfect tense, except the t prefix is going to disappear. And so if you know the imperfect, you already know the imperative. Only that to form the imperative, you only remove the t, then you have the imperative. So for any verb in the imperfect, you can form the imperative by just removing the t, the t. The rest is still the same. You can see the suffixes are still the same, but the prefix has disappeared. That's the imperative. And so if you master the imperfect, you already know the imperative. By just removing the t, you already have the imperative. So you have masculine singular, feminine singular, masculine plural, and feminine plural. This is imperative chart. And notice the translation. In the imperfect you have you kill. The imperative says kill. Perfect you have you kill. Imperative says kill. In perfect you have you will kill, imperative says kill. In the last one you have you will kill in the plural, imperative says kill. What am I saying? When you're translating imperative, you don't say you. You don't add person to it, you just give the meaning of the verb. Kill, walk, talk, say, speak. That's the imperative. You're giving a command. That is how you translate the imperative. Alright, let's look at the examples. First one you have Shivru lanu me'ad ochel. Shivru lanu me'ad ochel. Shivru lanu me'ad ochel. Focus on shivru. Now, the word shivru is imperative because the t has disappeared. The form looks imperfect with only the t disappearing. So you have shivru. That hirech is a sign that you had two shuas and you had t prefix. So the t has disappeared, so you have shivru. And because of that u suffix, it's masculine plural. Masculine plural. Now what does it mean? It's coming from the word shavar. Shavar. Shavar means buy, he bought. And the imperative is buy. Buy. Remember the imperative is straight. Buy. Buy. Lanu. Lanu means us, it means to us. But context is going to guide your translation. So instead of saying to us, He say for us, buy for us, me'at ochel, me'at ochel. Ochel means food. So me'at means little. So the translation becomes, buy for us a little food. Buy for us little food. Or buy us a little food. Buy us little food. Alright, next we have Chizku we'amitzu al tiru. Chizku we'amitzu al tiru. Al tiru. How to translate that? Now here there are two imperatives. The first one is Chizku. And that is imperative because of that hirek, those two shuas, that's reduced to one, because the T has disappeared, the T prefix has disappeared, and you have the U, the suffix for the imperfect. So imperative is always going to carry suffix for the imperfect with only the T disappearing. And because T prefix disappears, you have hirek from the shua. Shua comes to hirek. So this is imperative masculine plural. And the verb comes from the lexical form chazach, chazach, which means he was strong, he was strong. You have already looked at this verb in chapter 11 and you must know it by now. He was strong. So in imperative it becomes chizku, chizku. And that means be strong, be strong. It's a command, be strong. And then you have we'amitzu, conjunction wow, and then the imperative amitzu. You may not have looked at this verb, but it comes from the verb amatz, which means he was courageous. He was courageous. Now you may not see hirek here because aleph is a guttural. It always prefers A-class vowels, and so you're having that kametz. So amitzu is imperative. Because of that ending there, that ending shows you it's imperative. It's masculine imperative, masculine imperative, and it means be courageous. Imperative, be courageous. Be strong and be courageous. We'amitzu, and be courageous. Au tiru, au tiru. Au means do not. Au means do not or not. So do not, tiru, from yare. Yare means fear. Tiru, do not fear. Do not fear. So together you have be strong and be courageous. Do not fear or do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Last we have Imrili Makef joins the two words Imrili Achi Hu. Imrili Achi Hu. How do you translate that? You look at Imrili, that's an imperative. The shua has gone to hirek, the T has disappeared, and it comes from Amar, Amar. And Amar means he said, he said. So Imri means say, it's a command. Imri, say. Imri-li, that li is preposition le with pronominal suffix. It means to me, it means to me. But context here makes us translate it as of me, say of me, say about me, say of me. Achi, who? Achi, from the word ach, meaning brother. Achi shows possession here. Remember, pronominal suffix or nouns, they show possession. So achi, my brother. Who? He. So he is my brother. He is my brother. So say of me, he is my brother. Should be a story of Abraham convincing the wife. Say of me, he is my brother. Now you can see to translate, you need vocabulary and you need to know the paradigms. You need to know the forms. And so that is very important. Here's your work. Based on what I've covered so far, here's your work. Try to translate these ones here. All these examples are in the imperative, and these are based on the words that you have covered so far. Try to translate these ones here. Alright, here are correct translations. You can compare with your answers. On the first one, we have the phrase Kitvu et adivarim basefer. Kitvu et adivarim basefer. How to translate that? The first word is imperative, kitvu, because shua has gone to hirek, and you have the u. That u suffix shows you it's imperative. So kitvu comes from the word katav. So in the imperative it becomes write, write. What should you write? The et is pointing to the object. Et is pointing you to the object. The davarim, write the words from the word davar. Write the words. Write the words Basefer. Write the words in the book. Write the words in the book. That ba has swallowed up the definite article, and so you have Basefer in the book. So in English, it's going to be write the words in the book. Write the words in the book. All right, next you have Shemona et mitzot hamelech. Shemona et mitzot hamelech. Now, the word Shemona is imperative. Remember, imperative. In this case, it's imperative feminine plural. Imperative feminine plural. It has removed the prefix, so you have Shemona, Shemona. And Shemona comes from the verb shamar, which means he kept, to keep, to guard. So here you have Shemona, and it means guard or keep, keep. What should you keep? Et mitzot. Mitzot means commandments, commandments. Hamelech. So you have mitzot hamelech, and this creates construct relationship. You have mitzot hamelech, construct. Mitzot is in the construct form, and hamelech is absolute. So you have mitzot of hamelech, commandments of the king, hamelech, the king. So keep the commandments of the king. Next you have shifti et hanashim ha'ele. Shifti et hanashim ha'ele. Shifti is imperative because of the form. That is imperative. If you can look at it, it looks imperative. The E at the end, that suffix is a suffix for the imperative, coming from feminine singular. If you check on the table, this is a feminine singular. And the T prefix has disappeared, so you have, it was supposed to be shifti, it's now shifti. And this comes from the word shapat, and that means he judged. Now in the imperative becomes judge, judge. What should you judge? Et is pointing to the object. Et ha'anashim, judge ha'anashim, judge the anashim. Anashim means men, judge the men. Ha'ele, demonstrative pronoun. You have looked at this. Ha'ele, ele is demonstrative pronoun. Judge the men, the this. In English, that becomes judge these men, judge these men. Last we have the phrase Kera et ha'am po. Kera et ha'am po. How do you translate that? Kera is imperative. You're supposed to have tikra, tikra, but the T has disappeared, so you remain with kera. And kera comes from kara, which means a chord. Imperative becomes ko. Ko, what should you call? Et is pointing to the object, what you need to call. Et ha'am. Call the am, call the am. And am means people. Call the people. Po means here. Po means here. This is an adverb. You have already looked at this word in chapter 12. You must know it by now. Po means here. Call the people here. Call the people here. Po, here. Alright, that's how you translate imperative. Let's look at the last mode, Jussive mode. The third mode, Jussive mode. Jussive mode is used to show or express a strong wish. Jussive mode is used to show or express a strong wish or mild command. Sometimes it's used to show a mild command, but most of the time shows a strong wish. Example, let Reuben live and not die. Let Reuben live and not die. That's in the Jussive. So it shows a strong wish, a strong wish. Mostly it's used for wishes or blessings or prayers. So that can be a blessing or a wish or a prayer. May God bless you. That phrase is in the Jussive, shows a prayer or a strong wish. Now notice all the three modes are coming from the imperfect tense. And this is important. Notice this. The Jussive has same form as imperfect. Remember, Jussive is third person. So the Jussive looks the same as imperfect tense in the third person. When you get the third person in the imperfect, that is how the Jussive looks. That is how the Jussive looks, because the Jussive has the same form as the imperfect in the third person. And so because they are same, context is going to guide you and determine the meaning. Let's move on. All right, let's look at passing. Let's look at passing. Let's see if we can identify the forms. First word, let's pass the word kitvu, kitvu, kitvu. Now, because of that hirek is coming from shiwa. You can't have two shiwa, so shiwa has gone into hirek. And you have that u ending. The u is a sign of imperfect. So you had tiktevu, but now the T has gone, so this is imperative. This word is imperative because it has removed the T. So you have kitevu. And kitevu is coming from katav. Again, how do you find lexical form? By removing all endings, removing all suffixes or prefixes, and removing all vowels, and putting kametz and patach on the first and second consonant. So you have katav. Katav means he wrote. So when it's imperative, it becomes write. On PGN, remember it doesn't have person, so you're going to have masculine plural. Moods do not have person. There's no need of showing person in moods. Why? Because cohortative is already known that is first person. Imperative is already known that is second person. The jussive is already known as third person. So there's no need of putting person. Just show the gender and the number. You just indicate the gender and the number. So you have masculine plural. If you check the form, if you check on the chart for the imperative, you're going to find that U ending is on masculine plural. So since it's coming from katav means he wrote, and the imperative is going to become write, a command, write. All right, let's move on. We have the next one, eshmera. You can tell that a prefix and the a ending tells you it's cohortative. And cohortative in common singular is translated as let me. On gender and number, you have common singular. The mood is cohortative. Now for the stem throughout this course, stem throughout Hebrew 1 will always be cow. So you have stem, which is cow, mood is cohortative, and gender and number you have common singular. Translation, how to translate it? Shamra comes from shama, which means to keep, to guard. So it becomes let me guard. And the cohortative becomes let me guard. So cohortative is translated as let me or let us. Next we have nishmera. And because of that ni prefix and a suffix, this is cohortative. So the stem is cow, mood is cohortative, and the gender and number, because of the ni, this is coming from common plural. Remember, cohortative just has two forms, common singular and common plural. And this is connected to the word shamar, which means to keep. So in cohortative you have ni is translated as let us. That common plural becomes let us, plural, let us. Let us do what? Let us guard. Shama, let us guard. Nishmera, let us guard. Lexical form is shama. Next we have the word ektova. Now already the stem is cow. The mood, because of the a and a, the mood is cohortative. And the gender and number you have cs, common singular. That is translated as let me. Now to find the meaning, you look at the stem, katav. So let me write. Katav is to write. Let me write. And this is coming from the lexical form, katav, to write. Next you have the word nefor. Now nefor is coming from the imperative. Remember, the imperative removes the T prefix from the masculine singular imperfect tense, but the T has disappeared, so you have nefor. So the gender and number is masculine singular. If you check the chart for the imperfect, we looked at it at the beginning. If you check on the imperfect, you have this form appearing on masculine singular. So gender and number is masculine singular. The mood is imperative. And nefor is coming from nafao. Again, to find the lexical form, put kametz and patach, you have nafao. Nafao means he fell, to fall. So an imperative becomes fall. That is the translation. Lexical form, nafao. Next we have the word zikri. The stem is cow, the mood is imperative. Gender and number you have feminine singular. That E, when you check on the imperative, you find the E, this form appearing on feminine singular. How to translate it? You look at first where it's coming from. It's coming from zakar. Zakar means he remembered, to remember. So translation becomes remember, remember. Next you have the word ketovna, ketovna. Ketovna, because of that form, that na at the end, you can see it was tiktovna. It was tiktovna. And you can tell that's coming from the imperfect, but the T has dropped. And the only form that drops the T prefix is imperative. So ketovna is imperative. So it's feminine plural. It's imperative, feminine plural. If you check, the na suffix is coming from the feminine plural. Lexical form, this is coming from katav, which means to write. Katav, he wrote. And the imperative becomes write, write. Alright, that's about passing. That's about passing. Let's look at something important, and that is Hebrew prohibitions. Hebrew prohibitions. Now, if you want to say do not, in Hebrew, there are two ways to express the phrase do not. If you want to prohibit, if you want to stop somebody from doing something, there are two ways of doing it. So Hebrew expresses do not in two different ways, depending on whether the action is a specific, immediate command. In that case, it's going to be do not do this action right now. Or depending on whether the action is a general ongoing prohibition. In that case, it's going to be you must never do this action. You must never do this action. So one is immediate command, the other one is ongoing prohibition. So there are two ways of prohibiting somebody. There are two ways of stopping somebody from doing an action in Hebrew, depending on whether the action is immediate command or whether it's ongoing command. So let's look at both of them. So prohibitions in Hebrew do not use the imperative mode. Instead, biblical Hebrew uses the imperfect tense with the negative particles. So when you want to prohibit somebody in Hebrew, you're going to use these negative particles with the imperfect tense. And there are two negative particles that are used to show prohibition. The first one is au. Au expresses immediate prohibition, immediate prohibition. And the second one is lo. Lo shows permanent prohibition. So you have au and lo. Au is used for temporal immediate prohibition, and lo is used for permanent prohibition. Remember, au and lo, both of them mean do not. Both of them are translated as do not or not. But then how they are used, their function in a sentence when they are next to an imperfect verb is different. And this is very important in exegesis. When exegeting a passage and you see au or lo next to the imperfect tense, that is very important in exegesis. That is telling you something. So au is used for temporal, immediate prohibition. For example, this is what you find in Genesis 15 verse 1. That fear not or do not fear is a temporal prohibition. You're stopping somebody to not fear in that moment. But when you say law, when you use law with an imperfect tense, for example, when you walk through the commandments, the 10 commandments in Exodus 20, and also Deuteronomy 5, you're going to find law being used, meaning prohibitions that you find there are permanent. They are permanent prohibitions. So au is used for temporal, immediate prohibition, while law is used for permanent prohibition. So you have au and law. Let's look at the examples. Let's start with law. And we're saying prohibition in Hebrew uses law with the imperfect. So you're going to find law, and the following word will be the imperfect, an imperfect verb. Let's look at the examples. The first one you have lo titzach. Lo titzach. So you have law here. Law shows prohibition. Now what kind of a prohibition? You have an imperfect verb, titzach. And this comes from ratzach, which means murder. And so when you have law with an imperfect verb, the prohibition that is used there is a permanent prohibition. So law with the imperfect expresses a timeless moral command rather than a situational order. So this is not a situational prohibition, it's a timeless moral command. It means never at any time in the future may this happen. You should never do this anytime. So it's eternally binding. So this is not based on context. These aren't commands for a moment, they are commands for all time. And when you have law with imperfect, What it's telling you is that the action that is being prohibited should never happen ever. So here you have lo titzach, which means don't ever murder. English just shows don't murder, do not murder. But in Hebrew, the prohibition is not situational. It's permanent. Don't ever murder. That's what is coming from Hebrew. Because you have lo plus imperfect. Don't ever murder. Don't ever murder. These are prohibitions that you find on the 10 Commandments. So the 10 Commandments, all of them use lo plus imperfect. You're going to find the 10 Commandments using lo plus imperfect. Let's look at the next example. You have lo tinaf. Lo tinaf. Lo tinaf. Lo tinaf, you have lo, the particle law, the prohibitive particle law, and you have tinaf. Tinaf is coming from naaf, to commit adultery. Now you have lo plus tinaf. So you have a prohibition plus imperfect verb. In this case, the translation becomes don't ever commit adultery. Don't ever commit adultery. But the English just says don't commit adultery. In the Hebrew, it says don't ever commit adultery because you have law, prohibitive law, plus the imperfect. So Hebrew is expressing a timeless moral command, not a situation order, but a timeless moral command. And so the Hebrew is saying you must never do this at any time. You must never do this. So don't ever commit adultery. Another example is this. Lo tignov. Lo tignov. Lo tignov. Tignov is coming from ganav. Ganav means he stole. So you're talking about stealing, to steal. So lo tignov. Again, tignov is in the imperfect tense. So you have lo plus the imperfect tense, and this translation becomes don't ever steal. Don't ever steal. This is not a situation order, it's a moral timeless command. So you must never do this at any time. This law is not for a moment, it's for a lifetime. You must never steal. Don't ever steal. Exodus 20 verse 15. That's how you must translate it. Last example we have lo ta'aneh bere'acha ed shakeh. Lo ta'aneh bere'acha ed shakeh. Ed shakeh. How do you translate that? You have lo, prohibitive particle lo, and the following word is an imperfect verb, tahaneh. Aneh means to bear. Aneh means to bear. So you have lo tahaneh. Do not bear bere'acha, against your neighbor. Ed means witness. Shakeh means force. So here you have do not bear against your neighbor, witness, force. In English, translation becomes don't bear false witness against your neighbor. But because you have law with imperfect verb, translation becomes don't ever bear false witness. Don't ever lie against your neighbor. Don't ever bear false witness against your neighbor. So all these prohibitions that you're seeing, having law plus imperfect, what they're trying to say is that you must never do this. You must never murder. You must never commit adultery. You must never steal. You must never bear false witness against your neighbor. That's why Hebrew is communicating. And this is why we learn Hebrew. This is why we learn Hebrew. So law with imperfect expresses a timeless moral command, so it's eternally binding. Not based on situation, but eternally binding. Let's look at ow with imperfect. Let's look at ow. Remember, Hebrew uses another particle that is ow. Now, ow can be used with jussive, or ow can be used with the imperfect. You're going to find sometimes it's used with the jussive, sometimes it's used with the imperfect tense. So let's look at the examples. The first example we have ow ta'arot we'ow techat. And here you have ow here on ta'arot, and you have ow on techat. Now remember, when ow is used with the jussive or the imperfect, ow is showing a temporal situational command. The prohibition is temporal, it's for a moment, it's for that specific moment. So when ow is used with the jussive or imperfect, The prohibition is for that moment. It's temporal. It's situational. It's not eternally binding. So here you have au. In this case, it's translated as do not be afraid. Au tarot. Do not be afraid. We'au, and do not techat. And do not be discouraged. Do not be discouraged. So here, this prohibition is for the moment. It's a situational command. It means don't do this now, right now. Don't do this right now. Do not be afraid and do not be discouraged. In this moment, you have no reason to be afraid and you have no reason to be discouraged in this moment. And this is God speaking. This is Joshua 1 verse 9. God is encouraging Joshua, do not be afraid and do not be dismayed. Do not be discouraged in this moment. Why? Because verse 9 gives a reason. For the Lord goes before you. For the Lord goes before you. So in this moment, in this situation, you have no reason to be afraid because God is with you. So that's a situation or temporal command that is given there. All right. Another one we have, Wayomer Moshe El Ha'am Au Tirau. Au Tirau. Wayomer Moshe El Ha'am Au Tirau. You have the particle, the negative particle au on the verb tirau. Tirau is imperfect. So again here, because you have au plus imperfect, Hebrew is giving a temporal situational command, a situational prohibition. It's saying, do not do this right now. And the English translation says, and Moses saying to the people, do not be afraid. So again, Moses is telling the people, you have no reason to be afraid in this moment, in this situation. So it's a situational command. It's a situation prohibition. Another one is, Au tishlach yadka el ha'ana. Tishlach is an imperfect. Second person masculine singular. Tishlach. Imperfect, second person masculine singular. So that's an imperfect. So you have au plus an imperfect verb. In this case, Hebrew is giving a situational command, a situational prohibition. Au tishlach. And tishlach means do not stretch. Au tishlach means do not stretch or do not lay. Do not lay. Do not lay. Yadka. Yadka. You have pronominal suffix on the word yad, the noun. You have yad, which is a noun, and you have pronominal suffix. That ka is pronominal suffix. It means your. It means your. So you have your hand. Your hand. Do not stretch your hand. Do not lay your hand. El ha'ana. Ha'ana, meaning the lad. Do not stretch your hand against the lad. Do not stretch your hand against the lad. And this is a temporal command. This is a situational command. So remember, law is eternally binding. Law means don't ever do this. But au means in this situation, don't do this. That's the difference. And those are two prohibitions that are used, two negative commands that are used in Hebrew. That's very important for you to know. When exegeting, that's going to help you a lot. All right, let's look at chapter 15 vocabulary. Let's look at vocabulary for chapter 15. On the nouns, you have zona. Zona. Zona means prostitute. It means harlot. Next, you have chok. Chok. And chok means rule. It means a rule. A law, a regulation, a rule. And then you have hukah. 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 And that means statute. Statute. Then you have Yaden. Yaden. Yaden means Jordan. Yaden, Jordan. Jordan River. Yaden, Jordan River. And then you have Nasi. Nasi. Nasi means leader. It means chieftain or leader. Nasi means leader. And then you have Ed. We saw this word. Ed means witness. Ed means witness. The one that is used on do not bear false witness. Ed means witness or testimony. Next we have aon. Aon. Aon means iniquity. It means sin or guilt or punishment. It means iniquity. And then we have ola. Ola. Ola means sacrifice. It means sacrifice. Sometimes it's pointed as ola. Sometimes it's Allah. So ola means sacrifice. And then we have etsem. etzem. Etzem means born. It means born. Then we have et. Et means time. Point in time. It means occasion. Et means time. And then we have Rivka. Rivka. Rivka means Rebecca. Rebecca. And then we have Rachel. Rachel. Rachel means Rachel. Rachel. And then we have the word Torah. Torah. Torah means law. Torah means instruction. It means law. So this is very common. Torah. Torah means law. And then we have the word Tselem. Tselem. Tselem means image. It means likeness. It means image. And then we have verbs. First one is Ganav. Ganav. We have looked at this. Ganav means he stole. Ganav means he stole or he kidnapped. Ganav, he stole. And then we have Mashal. Mashal means he ruled. Mashal means he ruled. This is the same as Malach. Malach means he ruled. Mashal means he ruled. And then we have Paga. Paga. Paga means he touched. He met or he touched. And then we have Shavar. Shavar. Shavar means he broke. He shattered. He broke or he shattered. And then we have the verb Nafal. Nafal. Nafal means he fell. Nafal means he fell. And then we have the verb Shavat. Shavat. Shavat means he rested. He stopped, he ceased from work, or he rested. Finally, we have adverb and particle. On the adverb, we have the word ache. Ache. Ache means how. It means how. It's used to ask the question, how? Ache. How? And then we have the particle lachen. Lachen. Lachen means therefore. Lachen means therefore. So these are the words that you find in chapter 15. Remember, practice, practice, practice. Later out.